Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is John's Reports for the 2nd of July as we get ready for the 4th holiday, which I don't know if it'll be much of a holiday with some parts of the country closing back down again. Again, under a fallacy of logic, we've now learned that not only is there an increase in the amount of testing that's going on, so of course you find more new cases, but now the CDC in some kind of perverse logic has decided to take anyone who's testing for the antigen, meaning you've already had it, and adding that into the new totals of those infected, which makes zero logical sense, but it's what they're doing. And there's a real economic impact to that, which is why I mentioned it, because they're using metrics for number of cases in order to justify reopenings and that. And so this is going to hinder it by not using a logic-based construct, because if you've already had it, it doesn't mean you're going to get it again or currently have it, so you shouldn't be counting those. Other than as anecdotal as a separate category and not combining them. But plenty of articles pointing out the CDC is doing, in fact, that. And also, we have to recognize, the CDC even admits this as well, that their testing may actually just recognize you having the flu or a cold, because it's a coronavirus as well, and they're not 100% sure that you're not going to get that, unrelated to just the number of false positives when you start to ramp up the number of tests that you're doing. So it is a real problem. And again, of course, they're talking about hospitalizations, but as we saw from some doctors in Texas, and that a lot of the hospitalizations are people who were afraid to go to the hospital from before. They don't have COVID. They have other issues that they didn't get treated because they were scared. And now those untreated conditions have become far worse to the point they've needed hospitalization. So, they have kind of word for it in the military, right? FUBAR. Regardless of that, the market continuing to rise, which then begs, another point. You get articles like this. Craziest thing he's ever seen in the market. Well, clearly you haven't been around much to understand the devaluing of currency and the inflation that creates. Now, just because you're seeing the inflation first in the markets, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have the same effect when you print staggering sums of money. In this case, electronic money, you're getting an electronic effect, which is the markets. So there's no disconnect. In fact, we're way behind what you would expect to see from an inflationary standpoint comparative to the amount of dollars that have been created. So got to ignore all that stuff. The ratings were clear. We ended up with our turnaround of midterm buyers, also short-term buyers at the same time. Is it great or anything? No. I mean, it's pretty soft. Getting huge move in red DOC or anything like that, but it's enough to propel the move right back. And we saw the devaluation that took place within the Fed balance sheet, which justified some of the weakness that we saw. But it also, as I pointed out, gave them free muster to start all over again, which will cause another round of short cover break through the highs. We are seeing that, shorts are still relatively interested, as we're just still above zero on that. So keep all that in your perspective and quit worrying about the number that you read as opposed to following the indicator reading and what it suggests. So NASDAQ clearly breaking out because that is obviously where the majority of the market is moving, simply because that's where the economy has moved to. From a euro standpoint, more of the same. Euro should even get bolstered more than that. But of course, central banks are going to fight that one tooth and nail to keep things reasonable. And of course, oil, just poised. It's just waiting for that moment where it's going to break out above. And that's really going to be about activity. And of course, this disparity that we're going to see between red and blue states will be interesting, particularly even when you break it down into big cities versus outside of the cities, where they tend to be doing better than in the bigger cities that have been locked down excessively. Throw in the aftermath of riots and various other disturbances, and we'll see if things can remain on track. It's going to be a hot summer. So the dampening of 4th of July celebrations and that certainly is going to have an impact, as anybody who chooses not to go out to eat or go to a party, festival, concert, that impacts, and you do that over enough of the country, and it has an aggregate effect. That doesn't change anything. Everyone's still criticizing gold and its move, but no, gold has a we had some fun. I was posting this move right here. I like these situations. It's always good to look at this. You can see it more in Power Mo all the time when your magenta and green tend to meet. Particularly in this case, you had the blue rising, so this was a buy signal that took place right at the previous algo that we had at 72, corresponded just above what the 23% level had become. And I actually got a horrible fill, but I went ahead and posted the entry at the 74 and 3/4 range anyway, and mentioned that this is a high probability to move towards the 100% with the falling 100% Fibonacci lines, and sure enough, it did just that. So when we got up there, I then pointed out, hey, you know what? We get some positive extremes that will take us back to 92. So let's take the 20 plus points that we've made from that move from 70 to 3100. It was like 27. Wait for the retrace, buy it again, because we're going to come right back up to it. Because if we looked at the 50K chart, we were sailing golden with cyan under the red, so it was still a buy. And I'm like, okay, so we could take advantage of the dip. Sure enough, came right back down to it, filled the positive extreme, which also created another level up there, 3092, and then boom, went right back to it. So not a hard way to do 40 points before while the market had just opened at that point. So we were just a little bit into the actual day. So easy peasy, as I like to say. We then repeated this a couple more times. We faded through on the short signals. We waited for the full-on dip. Didn't quite get it there, but the secondary one certainly created it. Did not have steel dip back below for a reset from all the way back over here. So not entirely confident this would hold for duration, but it certainly held for quite a bit. And then at the end of the day, faded right back to that same spot off of a similar DOC spread. So just so perfectly within the ranges and our expectations. I mean, there was nothing really out of line with anything that took place. First thing this morning, again, pre-market loveliness where they have the low liquidity. You ended up with another beautiful buy signal, almost identical configuration to the previous one. And they did the same thing. What a shock. Not for us, because we know what's going on, and it's just a matter of following it. But again, from 31, well, in this particular case, it's a little bit over that. The signal came in at 3104, and you still had a retrace that came back into. They love to do that with a start one, and then they kind of dip back below to see if there's any little quick weekends, fill up any additional, and then boom, took it off. So creates another 25 plus points, and nice and easy. Same patterns repeated. In fact, we ended up with another set of positive extremes coming off right there. Probably not a bad place to. In fact, I'll just put it there right now just to make it easy. Because sometimes I delete these at the end of the day and just stick them back in there. So we have that low. So the actual low is at 15. And if you ever have trouble getting those to match, you can always click the snap mode. And then it goes right to the low, it'll go to the open, and then to the high. It'll follow whatever candle that you're picking. But I always make sure to go back and remove it, because otherwise you'll always get them jumping around into various places. So, long and short of it, all good. As always, anything special, I will certainly put it up. But happy to share those easy tips. And in that particular case that we were talking about from before, you had the matching Power Mo move along with the DOC. Anytime you find configurations like that where they're blending together, you have a much higher probability of a significant reaction as opposed to one or the other being in signal versus not signal. So we look for confluences, and then when you get all of them, where even in this case the shakeout, all of them were all three going at the same time together, it was beautiful. And it just keeps repeating itself, so go with what works. As always, trade well. We'll talk again later.